That's a host. All right, we're on.
Intro?
Yeah, we're back.
That was it. We're here.
This is it.
We made it.
Awesome. So, right there, the guys dancing.
There they are.
All right.
That's
I'll
our
look right into
future.
this camera. Thank you guys for joining us again. We appreciate all the positive feedback we've gotten on our podcast. And now it's time to get real. Just kidding. Let us know any questions that you have or give us feedback. And let's get this thing started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Restoration Radio,
Yeah.
take 3.
Bringing you everything about life improvement.
Yep.
So, Jason and I watched a really interesting video earlier today by the Jordan Peterson. You might pronounce it Peterson. I'm not sure because he is Canadian. His accent is amazing. But, Jason, you want to say anything about that video or our discussions that led thereafter, leading up to my first individual anchor radio broadcast?
Not really. I mean, I am a huge fan of Mr. Peterson and am consuming all that is what he does, who he is, all those types of things, and am learning to become greater.
Yeah.
In that he communicates authentically. And so I love anybody that communicates authentically. Donald Trump, he communicates authentically. Love him too.
Yeah.
But Peterson, he's good.
We're going to make you expand on the Donald Trump thing.
Yeah, that was just the videos that you were making me watch last night, and it's definitely not podcast material that I'm ready to put my name on yet.
I'm not,
so.
I wasn't ready for you to put your name on that either, which is why I was asking for clarification. But I know what you're saying. He spoke authentically when he said some things that piss some people off. Okay.
Yes.
Moving on from that, this will not be about that. I know something I wanted to talk about, if you guys are up for it, is the what's your number versus what's your frequency thing, because I think that would be something really cool that people watching and listening could take away from this and start utilizing immediately in their own lives. You guys down with that?
Yeah, that's cool. We do that quite regularly. So.
Right, so how it started, or if you want to, do you want to talk, Eric or Jason, about kind of what's your number, where that started, is really to assess where the guys that live in our home, I don't even know how to say that part anymore, give us
it's a home.
An
and
idea.
they live in it.
That's right.
So it's accurate.
Give us an idea of where they're at, not with their day, not with that, but just really internally, just where they are at on a scale of 1 to 10. And
I see what you're saying.
That
was a little lost there for me.
That's how it started, but now it's grown into something different. So, Jason, I would love for you to expand on that whole number thing, because what I believe that people can take away from it, or what I know that they can take away from it, is application to their own lives and taking a look inside themselves. And hey, we're here for life restoration, right? So let's give these people some stuff they can do and improve.
Cool.
Sure. Why don't you start?
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly where it started. I know that you started it, like just asking guys like where their number is and where they're at. Normally we'd start our meetings and it was like, brrr, pulling teeth to get anybody to talk about, how their day was and how to even kind of make that even register on some type of level, other than my day was good, and then reporting back in on the facts of the day is kind of where we're trying to get away from. Is like, I went to work, I saw my friend, I typed on my computer.
Right.
You know, I got mad. I came home. You know, and that was kind of what we were getting. And so it moved over into this. Let's put a number on it. You know, let's put it on a scale of 1 to 5. I don't know if we started 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or what it was.
Always 1 to 10.
Yeah, and let's put a number on it and see where people are at, and then it helped us kind of start. It kind of helped us start measuring the communication level. Is really what it was, of how in touch with yourself are you at this point in time with the day, and then it's grown immensely from there, based on where we landed. Like even last night in the meeting we had, where, you know, for the first few weeks it was a struggle to kind of get through the number part of having people give you a number. It's like, I don't know, I'm a 279er.
It's like the beginning. It allows you to. It is a tool in which we use to see if you are really willing to participate.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the beginning. It teaches you to start. You got to start somewhere, and what's easier than starting with a number?
Right.
Yeah.
And so we stuck on the number 1 to 10, and we've often kicked around doing different things with it. And here recently, we've moved more into frequency and saying, you know, if 0 is death on the frequency scale and 10 is completely alive, you know, what are you broadcasting? What is your frequency that you're broadcasting today? And the interesting thing is getting away from the facts. The facts are, they can have some value to them sometimes, but it depends on how you're giving the facts. And really, your frequency is often and should be separate from what you did today.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think what we were trying to get away from is the material part of the day, right? Like, and move into a place called, you know, where are you? What are you broadcasting really? Versus what happened to you today.
Yeah.
Because that's not really the question we're asking. Is, you know, when we say, you know, what's your number? It's not how was your day. Tell me, report in on what happened to you today. And the number drives, and it's simplistic from a place of starting, but it opens up an enormous door for communication with the guys that we've been using that with. It's been crazy, like how that's changed, even in my own day. You know, like just asking myself that throughout the day, how much has changed on what I'm broadcasting and what that means at that point in time. I think on a deeper note, what I realized with it, and I know some of the other guys have started to venture into this well, is that you can make a decision to be at that number at any point in time. It really it begins to teach the individual that you can separate yourself from the circumstances of your environment and broadcast whatever it is you choose to broadcast at that moment in time. That you're not a victim of the circumstances that you're sitting in. And that's what I've seen with some of the guys I know myself.
Yeah, it's a form of accountability as well, where you can, you know, without getting into trying to get someone to talk to you, you can look at someone and say, hey, what's your number?
Mm-hmm.
And that immediately begins that authentic communication of, you know, kind of, do you know who you are, and where you came from type of thing. And then once you take that breath and listen to yourself and decide what frequency you're broadcasting, then, you know, we look at each other and say, why?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? Why are you allowing your body or the environment to dictate who you are? And, you know, that is what we're getting away from, is that these labels and facts and living in the body, like, I had a good day at work, therefore I'm broadcasting a high frequency, or I had a bad day at work, therefore I'm broadcasting a low frequency. That's not who you are. And if you're spending every moment of every day in your life allowing all these different environments, your home environment, your work environment, your drive environment, your social environment, all these different things to dictate who you are, you're lost. And it's time to snap out of it and become aware of the undeniable facts of life. And the fact is that all those things don't decide who you are. Right. You were created for greater things.
And I think what was really neat is when you walked through that with me and said, then you're kind of asking yourself, am I who I think I am? So, you're walking through that yourself, getting a better understanding. So,
yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk even a little bit more about frequency, but it's very interesting to me, that whole scientific part of, we do emit a frequency. Yeah.
We put off energy or frequency, right. And that's an undeniable. Like we put off a frequency one way or the other. And to back to what Jason was saying, is it a low frequency? Is it a high frequency? And what is that frequency broadcast saying?
Right.
And I've heard people say it a number of different ways, right? But I think the putting it in that kind of context or wording makes sense to today's person, because we're so involved with technology and broadcasting.
Right.
We're doing a podcast right now. We're broadcasting stuff, right? Is that what are you putting out there? And
right.
your body, there's an unseen thing that most of us would, if we stop and think about it, we've always been aware of, because there's these moments in time where like, hey, they're putting off a good vibe, or there's
right.
something
We've said,
here. Yeah, and it has to do with the frequency a person's putting off. Most people just don't take the time to become aware of what they're putting out there, right? And then they wonder why different things come in contact with them the way they do, and why certain events repeat themselves in their life consistently, or why certain types of people are coming at them consistently, and they find themselves in the same relationships with the same things. And it has to do with that frequency that they're repetitively putting off, that connects with whoever that person is and overlaps in the way that it needs to. And if it's dysfunctional, it will create a dysfunctional connection,
right?
And therefore becomes a dysfunctional relationship or dysfunctional circumstance or whatever else. But, and the fact that we don't always realize what we're doing in that moment, we just tend to blame it on, like, I guess it's just bad luck. Like, I just keep picking the wrong guy or girl to go out with or marry.
Why doesn't it ever work out for me?
I don't know, isn't that weird that I picked the guy first? It's strange. Yeah. I don't know. And I was looking at Jason, so it's weird.
Yeah, you have really bad luck with guys, I know.
I know. It didn't work out, that's why I married a woman. Good. So,
but that it is the truth. It's like, listen, you attract what you broadcast. It's just that simple. You cannot be in lack. You cannot wake up every morning begging, wishing, hoping, praying that your life is going to be different today and expect anything other than what has already happened in your life, because that is what you're broadcasting. That's what you're sending out there, and that's what is going to come back. And so we here at the LifeRestoration Office of Infinite Possibilities like to focus on the undeniable and what we can control and what we cannot control. Mm-hmm. And those are the undeniable things that have been proven through experience, through science, through all these different things that allow us to become aware of what is. And once we become aware of what is, then we can accept it and begin to change our broadcast.
Right.
And so, but before we go any further, I'm going to do something real quick.
Yeah.
We meant to do this at the beginning. We're going to do it now anyway, and next week it's going to be at the beginning. We don't know a frickin' thing about anything. The more I know about all this stuff, the less I know. And so our purpose in being here in broadcasting is not to be right. It is not to get people to come along with our way of thinking or belief systems or anything like that.
Change.
Because we don't have a belief system. We don't have a way of thinking. We are on an adventure, and the three of us are explorers,
Mm-hmm.
and we are going out and have been going out, for the last decade plus, exploring everything that is life restoration. And so that's who we are, where we are, and where we came from, and that's what we're doing here. And so I just want to, that's the disclaimer.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not here as experts in anything else other than our lives.
And what has worked for us that we've also taught others.
Sure. And it's worked for thousands of others. But, that speaks for itself.
Right.
We don't need to... Anyway, so that may have just completely changed the frequency of the whole episode, but oh well. I wanted to get that out there closer to the beginning.
Now, do you have any idea what you were going to say?
Me?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Let me get back into position.
Yeah. So that's that, and
I'm back.
now we're back.
So I don't know where we were going with that.
Well, I have something I want to say. This was a quote today that I really liked.
Okay.
And I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
Maybe. Anxiety is a fear of the future. Depression is a fear of the past.
Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yep.
Boom.
I was going to say that's Dr. Joe.
Yeah, okay.
And so we failed to really emphasize, we mentioned Peterson earlier.
Right.
Dr. Joe is a huge influence on all of us right now, and has been on me for quite some time. One of the things I noticed that we failed to mention here in the last couple episodes was Muse Meditation.
Yep.
Push-ups for the brain.
Huge.
Assistance. Huge assistance.
It's huge.
And
it's huge.
He speaks from experience.
Huge.
Yes. A great tool to put you into position to be able to hear yourself, to learn how to meditate, to get out of your own friggin' way.
I'm getting ready to write them a thank you letter.
Yes.
I think I'm getting ready to write them a thank you letter.
Yeah.
Because I've been using the Muse for a month or something, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
And I heard myself think for the first time, maybe since I was an infant, this last week. And it's been, I told him my meditations have totally changed in this practice of just spending and dedicating some consistent time to it. Where it was the first time I was click, I was behind the veil, finally, and I was whoa, and I've had some great meditations, but these were now it's really
consistent.
It's consistent, yeah. And it's not 4 hours here, an hour there, and I'm not having to hang upside down and get into some type of yoga camp or, weird linen clothing or anything like that to get it done. I spend 10 or 15 minutes
you
here.
You don't have a tambourine?
No, there's no tambourine. My kid broke it, but it was there. That's what I take up the collection with afterwards. But it's been awesome. So I'm kind of joking, but not joking. I really do want to send them a thank you. This thing's really great. It's awesome.
Tweet them.
I should tweet it.
Dedicate.
That's that's how we do everything nowadays.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
I'm so old fashioned. I was thinking about writing something or
you
sending
really
an
are
email.
talking
You're
about
send
writing.
some snail mail.
Huh?
Send them a letter. Yeah, you want to get in touch with them? DM them.
I'll just step behind the veil and send them some quantum frequency.
That's
and
it.
they'll pick
That's
up on
it.
it with their app.
That's it. And
Yeah,
they
birds will
will
be chirping and they'll be happy.
Yeah,
Right,
so I wanted
good.
to mention
yeah,
that, some
and
of that
that's
stuff. Why don't you share real quick, before we go there, because a lot of people struggle with this idea of meditation. And so let's not get into the religious BS and all that stuff right now. Let's just get into what people struggle with in regards to sitting down and not doing anything.
Yeah.
And what, for you, clicking over to the other side, what that looks like, what it sounds like.
It's, so I'm coming out of my addiction background, I've always had this enormous amount of inner dialogue that's going on. And I've been somewhat aware of it, to some extent because of the way I behave at times. And even as I've been in recovery for 10 years now, the way I would calm down my thinking or get through things would be almost like I would fight with myself and then at times win the argument on the calm down side or on the step aside side, and then after that whole exhausting process, diffuse whatever was going on. But it was this whole argument going on. And so, as Jason suggested meditating, we've been checking it out, and he started doing it before I did, and he was like, just do it. I was like, all right. And so for me, the hard part was like, of course, I had all these preconceived notions about what meditation was, and not from a religious standpoint, just so like, okay, I have to get like a mat. I need to get my shoes off. I've got to sit a certain way. Oh my God, my back's going to hurt. My hip flexors are tight. And I tried it the first couple of times, like, I can't do this. I'm on the floor, and I'm like, I couldn't get comfortable. And so then I started, reading a little bit more into meditation, some instructions on it, just some basic, simple, like, meditation stuff. And it was like, sit. I was like, okay, I can sit. So it was just became sit, get into somewhat of a quiet space where there's not kids hitting me with Hot Wheels or, baby dolls and Barbies flying at me with, trolls blaring in the background. And so I started just doing that, spending some time. I think his first was like 5 minutes at your house, actually, when I was over there one day after a huge blow up. And I sat down, did that, and I didn't know what I was doing at that point in time. I just sat down and did whatever. And then what happened at first was the old brain waves, your thought processes kicked in and started. At first, it was this argument of don't think, just be quiet, and the whole time, breathe. Just track your breathing. Now concentrate on your breathing. But at the whole time, this is literally what's going on in my head. And I'm like, how do you meditate when I'm trying to talk myself into meditating? Because I need to calm myself down so I can meditate so that I can do what I need to do. And then for whatever reason, I finally got to this place. I think you and I were talking one night, and it was like, you don't have to do anything. Quit trying, And so I just sat down one night and said, I'm not going to try. I don't care how this goes. I'm not focused on and I'm a big results-oriented person. So I'm always like, this just wasn't good enough, So I finally sat down and said, screw it. I don't care how this goes. I'm going to sit down.
That's what you're supposed to do.
And the only thing I'm going to do is just relax and kind of unplug my brain, And so I did, and it was the first couple of times it was weird. It was almost like at times I would get to this place and I could feel myself relax, and it was like, and I'd come back out of it and almost like somebody shocked me, and I was like, that's weird. But then as I kept practicing that, I realized what that was, and it was a space that I had never been in before. So I would almost equate it to feeling like falling. Those times, almost like I was falling when I'd step into those places, and it would kind of throw me off because I've never felt like that. And so as I continued to practice that over time and realize what that was, I got more comfortable with that and was able to shift myself in there. Now I can, I've gone from, on the Muse thing, it measures your calm time. So I've gone from 20, 30% to more like 70, 80% in the time that I'm doing. And my times have gone up. But it's just, I stopped trying. It was the easiest way I could explain it. I didn't try. I just sat back and unplugged and said, let's take a step back.
So how do you stop trying? What does that mean?
For me, the dialogue was a big part. I had to stop talking to myself. And so I had to first, I started becoming aware of that there was all this dialogue. And then I had to take the next step, which was I'm just not going to engage in it. And then as I stopped engaging in it and started focusing on just my breathing, literally just breathing in and breathing out, not concentrating on a way where I was describing my breathing. Because one of the things I was doing was describing my breathing to myself, which was kind of verbalizing. And then the other things I was doing was in my descriptions, I was trying to tie a picture of something with what I was doing in my mind, which was not allowing me to relax. So I would try to envision what I was trying to do with some conversation versus just concentrating on feeling my breath. Mm-hmm. And there's a big difference in feeling my breath and trying to understand my breath.
Right.
And so once I gave up on trying to understand my breath and just got into feeling things, it was really uncharted territory for me, but it also, when it clicked.
So would it be fair to say that when you stop focusing on what you want from the experience, the result,
yep,
that is what allows you to stop trying. Because when you don't care what happens, you just know that you need to do this, then that takes the expectation away from what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It also takes the expectation away in the middle of it, where you're having this dialogue with yourself constantly, trying to figure it out, control it.
Right.
And you just let it all go, and you be, and you begin to experience something that I would say you've never experienced before, but that's not true, because there was a time when you were created that you were in a space where you did not think about all of this insanity. And you were quiet, and you were able to just breathe and be. And when we do that, we are allowing ourselves to get back to our most native place, position of life, in life.
Yeah.
Which was, when our heart started beating and when we started breathing.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to reiterate 2 things that you said. You said over time, but we're talking about a month here, so it doesn't take a long time to get the practice going. And also, you started with 5 minutes. I think that's another important misconception that people have, is that this meditation, it needs to be a certain way, or like you mentioned, sitting on the floor with the mat, and no, it's not like that. So
I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. Yeah. And Dr. Joe Dispenza has a lot of great meditations. There's also tons of great apps out there.
Muse Meditation.
Muse Meditation.
Push-ups for the brain.
Push-ups for the brain.
This segment has been sponsored by
the Muse.
Muse Meditation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. It monitors your brain waves, sends reports. It does these cool things to help you with that.
It's just a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally been like, and I go to the gym, so it's really I equate it very similarly to working out. It's just the repetition of doing it opens doors. Just making that commitment to do it and be in that space. So
it's like you don't go to the gym. You're you don't anytime and work out and do some push-ups and sit-ups, and you're not going and doing those repetitions for right then and there.
Right.
It's the result comes later on.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not in control of the result. And you don't know how it's going to come to you. You don't know what it's going to do for you. But you know that it's good for you. And so one of the interesting things about it that I like is that the results, the clarity, the focus is often just absolutely surprising.
Yeah.
And, that's what we call surrendering our lives to infinite possibilities. Getting out of what we know and just doing the work, and then being okay with whatever, whenever it comes. But we do know it's going to come. That's the proven part.
Yeah, I think that was part of the other part with me, with the expectations peeling off, was I had some type of expectation of walking away from meditation with something I could describe or experience that was going to take place, or revelation that was going to, and when I got away from that part of it, because that's me trying to control of that, and just said, I don't know what this is going to, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and just be in the moment of where I am. And like you said, I haven't walked, I've become much more aware over time, but I didn't just pop up, take the Muse off, and be like, oh, thank God that was the best 10 minutes. Now I'm fully aware, of this. Right. And I'll walk down, and walk back out. I mean, I think the greatest part of it is just the fact that in doing it, I know that something's going to happen. I know that I'm based on experience, I'm not going to do it and end up being the same as I was before I did it over time. Yeah.
And I like what Corey Mascara says, which is give yourself 1 minute a day. He meditates for at least 1 minute a day, because just that 1 minute is proving to yourself that you are important enough to go away from everything else. Now, does he meditate for more than 1 minute a day? Absolutely, and that's the whole goal. But if you could just take out 1 minute a day, then you're on your way to being a better you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big part of it is saying, back to the whole frequency and working on life restoration and asking yourself the questions, am I who I think I am? And caring enough to ask the question to yourself. Having enough empathy and love for self, willingness to communicate with yourself before you go out and try and save the world or change the world or whatever it is that you're out there doing, placing everything and everyone in front of you. And if you're not the most important person in your life, then no one else is going to feel or receive a thing from you. You can tell yourself that things are happening and that they are, but the truth, the undeniable truth, is that you can only receive what you broadcast. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not the most important thing in your life, no one else can be either.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what that looks like. So we get to talk a lot, and we got so much information that we want to talk about, and breaking down some of these. How do I know who I am, where I am, and all that good stuff, and that will come. But I wanted to give the floor to you, Robin, and kind of expound on some of our conversation earlier today. And the truth be told is that there's a lot of women out there that don't ever get an opportunity to talk.
Yeah.
To be anything different than what their circumstances are providing. And oftentimes, later on in their lives, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old women have these breakdowns because they have poured themselves into everybody else. Mm-hmm. And they have no idea who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have been hoping, wishing, begging, and praying that this feeling inside of completion would come when their children did this, or all these different things that they place these expectations on. And Eric and I like to talk, but I know there's some fans out there that want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think it's just relatable that women, we are advocates for everyone else. And, be that our job if we work, our husbands if we're married, our kids if we have them, whether they're grown or not. And so we do rarely take that time out for ourselves. But where I was at this morning was just feeling kind of meh. If you've seen the new Emoji movie, I was meh. Meh's mom.
Meh.
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 Just with this constant pull and tug from, what do I make my primary discipline? Is it to try to be the best mom? And obviously you want to be the best of everything, but is it more focused on parenting? Is it more focused on our organization and business? Is it more focused on being a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend? You could name all these things. So was just feeling not enough, which I know every woman. I'm not sure that there is a woman that I know that doesn't feel that. But just trying to see more where that came from, and also getting a better understanding of how to fix it. So that was the terminology I used this morning. So I'll just, lead with that, because I am a very type A personality. I make things to-do lists, and I like to check them off and fix things. I want to analyze my problems, do whatever I need to do to get it to disappear or push it under the rug if I must,
Right.
and move on from it. Most of the time pretending that it never existed. I mean, that's really my hard wiring, is this perfectionistic, I can do all things, nothing can stop me, and that. And I mean, and I do feel like, thank God for that hard wiring, because it has really gotten me past some pretty horrific things in life. But just to kind of expand on what we talked about this morning, let me see. I don't really... Where should I begin?
I have a question for you when you were saying something.
Go ahead.
So when you were... Because you brought up the fact that you use the word fix things.
Yeah.
Yeah, is how you felt. Like, there's all this stuff, like, I've got this, I've got that, I got, because you've got your kid, you've got...
I'm trying to figure things out
Jason,
so I can do this and I can fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, with fixing, that word always pops up to me when I hear it. And I hear myself say it even, because I'm like that too. Like, it's like fix. But, and then I take a step back and I'm really like, have a moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fixing is so reactive.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like me being reactive to life. And that frustrates me.
Yeah.
Like, that part of that is frustrating to me. Feeling like I've always got to fix everything. And then, I don't know. It's kind of like, do you feel the same way about that? Like, fixing stuff?
Oh, listen, that is such a hilarious vernacular that in the South, we're fixing to go do this.
Well, exactly, yeah.
We're fixing to go do this. I'm fixing to go eat dinner. I'm fixing to go this. Like, that must have started from the need of people to want to fix everything.
Yeah.
I'm fixing to go do this. Yeah, okay, but anyway. Yes, so...
That's a very good point.
Yeah, right? It came from somewhere. Yeah,
now it would be
think,
fitting to.
Yeah,
fitting to.
I look at, life as I knew it pre-evolving out loud every day. Whether it was in my company that I owned, a problem came to me from a client, boom, came up with figure out the best and quickest, most efficient, effective way to fix it, and done. Moving on to the next thing, like putting out a bunch of fires all the time. Like
the next problem.
Yeah.
It's the answer man syndrome.
Yeah.
Answer woman
Yes,
syndrome.
thank you.
Yeah.
So did that answer your question?
I think it's equal. I'm hearing you saying it's frustrating. It's like you've been conditioned in some sense in your professional life, especially, it sounds like. That because when you are talented at something, and in your position, it's equally as dangerous because people come to you with all kinds of problems wanting you to fix them, right? Can you fix my son? Can you fix my daughter? Can you fix our family?
We've been to 4 places. Can you fix them?
Can you fix this situation? And so I can find I know that, and I deal with that at work too. Like, fix this, fix that, this is broken, this is that, and I just didn't know how you felt about it, and what space do you try to get yourself into. Or what space were you able to get into this morning if you were to get out of that kind of, hey, I need to fix everything? Because that puts a lot of pressure on an individual.
Oh, yeah.
It's like...
what it does is people that fall in love with fixing, okay, and you had mentioned that women put all their stuff into all these other people, and I believe that is the story that they tell themselves, but the reason why a fixer... fixes is so they don't have to focus on themselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's where codependency comes in. Right. Yeah. So we were watching a video this morning. It was Jordan Peterson's live YouTube video from 8/14/17. It's just a couple days old. Has over 100,000 views. It's awesome. But one of the things he talks about when someone asked him a question was about self-transformation, and his advice is, if you're going to be a creative person, you need to put your life together. You need to increase your consciousness, because if you're a neurotic person, then with a higher consciousness, you have a lower neuroticism. So clean your room, organize your life, get a routine. He gave all these things. Establish disciplined habits. Talked about calendaring. Talked about all these things, because this person had asked questions about how to be their most creative. And he said, well, what you have to do is organize your surroundings, because if everything else is calm, then that leaves this open space for you to be creative. And that's easier than the radical reconstruction on your fundamental temperament, which you maybe not be able to change at all. So it was really awesome. So then that was kind of it. And I mean,
I loved what he said. These are my words, some of his words, some of mine, but voluntary slavery to something that creates discipline over and over and over and over again becomes a skill.
Right.
It's a voluntary submission
to a repetition,
to change.
To create the attention,
and so what's interesting is, and then there's another question that was really good that maybe we'll lead into, but what was interesting is, so when I was discussing, after we watched it the second time, and I was discussing with Jason my thoughts, I immediately went to the list making. I immediately went to, okay, well, I definitely can get more organized. I can definitely calendar this. I can do, because he talks in calendaring about, don't make your calendar as a tyrant. It's your confidant. It's your advisor.
Right.
Create the week that you want.
Don't be
Schedule it the way
to it.
that you like, where things that you consider meaningful and productive are getting done. And there's, this thing that you see going on in a positive way. So I start telling Jason all these things. Boom, boom, boom. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Because I can do that. And then I say, when he talks about neuroticism, I go, but I don't think I'm very neurotic. And, I'm going on. And then Jason's like, well, actually, about that. And then it just starts kind of unfolding for me the ways in which I can have neurotic behavior. And also that it's not bad that I, that became aware of this. Just the fact that I was willing to understand it and become aware is a huge step, because now I can do something about those things. And I didn't have that understanding. I just looked at it, okay, neuroticism, that's something bad, so I don't have that. Even if I do have it, I'm going to pretend I don't have it, and I'm going to keep on moving on and do all these things that I can do.
Right.
But that's not what it's about. It's about that self-awareness. It's about that self-discovery of understanding more about me and how I work and what makes me tick, and what, get an understanding of those things so that I can then develop them more, that I have a launch pad to be better, be different, understand where neuroticism is good, and understand where I'm a little over the top in that area.
That's what I was going to say. I think you mentioned that, and it's one of the things that over the last couple of years that I know that I've become much more aware of is just the not everything is all good and not or all bad.
Right.
Like, and we were kind of conditioned to think, like, to your point, neuroticism.
Bad.
Oh, that's terrible, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so I definitely don't have
it's
that.
all because it's awful. That's bad. This is good. Let's see how many things we can get stacked on the good side.
Right.
And if I've got more good than bad, then everything's great. And I've got more bad than good, then everything's not great.
Right.
And then when you take a step back and start diving into what you're talking about, you become aware that, like, hey, it's not good or bad, it just is.
Right.
And there are parts of this that I'm misusing or letting drive too hard. And there's parts of this that are really, really great aspects that I can build upon, because it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
And if I embrace those parts and love those parts of me, then I can leverage those parts to really be an influential or powerful or
and working for
happy and expressive person in whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
And instead of condemning myself, and getting into like this whole guilt and shame because I have this piece of this
label
that I've been told is so bad.
Right.
I can look at it and just go, okay, well, this is what it is. I need to push that piece of this and don't utilize that part of it. Let's leverage this piece of it. It's really, really great.
Eckhart Tolle says that you have to be able to recognize insanity in yourself to grow past it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to become aware of who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't take the time to become aware to who you are, where you are, based on where you came from, you can never unfold into anything else other than who you are.
So what you're saying is everybody has insanity in them.
Exactly.
And,
and
you have to be willing to become aware of it and accept it to move beyond it.
And the fact that you have it doesn't make you a lesser human being. It
bad.
actually just proves you are a human being.
Right.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah.
I mean, something that Gary Vee said on a podcast that I was listening to earlier is about how much he believes in self-awareness and is obsessed with it, to the point where he said if he could gift his daughters anything and everybody in the audience anything, it would be a gift of self-awareness. Because I'm going to quote this. He says, once you have self-awareness, everything changes. You actually know who the fuck you are instead of trying to be something you wish you were. Everything changes. And I think that goes right along with everything that we're doing. And what you were just saying about those things, it's actually figuring out who you really are.
Yeah.
Not who you wish you were, not who you want to be, not who your parents think you are, not who
society says you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And then the next step that has my eyes opened up to is then falling in love with that part of yourself.
All of yourself.
All of yourself. And as you discover these things about yourself, falling in love with that part of it. You know, I think, you know, for most of us, there's this weird perception that, like, we're not supposed to literally fall in love with ourselves, especially anything that might not be perfect.
Right.
Like, if there's any type of inadequacy, we definitely can't love that about ourselves.
Right.
And the problem is those inadequacies are labeled based on who we are around during different seasons of life. And so if you are basing your life on these labels based on who you're around as an inadequacy, then you never are able to find something about yourself to fall in love with.
Right.
Because everyone is telling you how bad you are, how lost you are, how this you are, and you need to be saved, you need to, you've lost your way,
you're a sinner, you're a terrible person.
Yes, and you need something on the external to solve all your internal problems. And so don't look inside, go out there, look out there, and if you do this right, this right, this right, and this right, then you should be okay. And usually by the time you realize that you have done all these things that people have asked you to do, and you still feel like crap inside, then it's a new season of life, the undeniable peaks and valleys of life, and so they move out of your life and new people move in, and you're just on this wicked roller coaster of hell on earth, suffering.
It goes back to when you're walking into a situation or an experience or a time in your life and you're looking for someone to tell you who you are.
Right.
They will, but it's not going to be who you are.
That's
who
it.
You really are,
You know, and so you spend all this time frustrated trying to live up to somebody else's design for your life that you were never intended to live into.
Right.
And then why do we always feel inadequate? Well, because I'm measuring myself against some type of measurement that's not me.
Right.
An external measurement.
An external measurement. And whether that's in the church or in psychology or in wherever it is it might be, you're looking at your work.
The gym.
The work's a big one. Gym's a big one physically.
Magazines, women,
school,
skinny, not skinny,
you know,
all these different things.
Everyone's told me I'm supposed to go to this class, to take this path, to have this degree.
Oh, Lord.
You know, and again, there's nothing wrong with getting degrees or going to college or going to church or going to any of those things.
Right.
But if you're showing up at any of those places looking for those people to tell you who you are, you're in for some frustration and suffering. And we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all speaking from experience.
Yeah, we were speaking from experience. We've all shown up at all those places and let people tell us who we were.
Right.
And ran around thinking that's who we were, and then bumped into all the suffering and pain that we did trying to live in that influence. You know, so
I think what's really cool is that if you hang on for the ride and you actually sit with those inadequacies for a bit and just accept them, feel them, experience them, then you really do begin to understand the unique individual that God created and that you are. And when you know those things, then you're okay with yourself. Then you operate from a completely different perspective.
Well, it's the old, you know, we try to protect those because in denial that people aren't going to see them or whatever it is.
Right.
And the reality is we're lying to ourselves the whole time that we're doing it too.
Right.
And it's like this miserable game of hide and seek
Yeah.
That we get into the, as Jason calls it at times, mental masturbation.
Whew.
That we get into.
I don't know that the fans are ready for that one.
But it's this, this sick game that we play in our heads that, hey, and you're right, if you can just sit in it, one of the things that you realize is, because we've convinced ourselves otherwise, the first thing we convinced ourselves is, if anyone finds this out, or if I acknowledge this, then the world will come to an end as I know it in some capacity.
Right.
And when you sit in it and realize it and become aware of it and accept it and start to do these things with it, what you very quickly realize is, first, the world does not come to an end.
Right.
Like, all your friends don't run out the door. Your
Right.
family doesn't just run out. The clouds don't start falling out of the sky and trees dying in your yard. Like, it just is what it is, right? Like, I don't know, there's all these crazy things we tell ourselves, but that's kind of the perception we have with this. It's like, if I admit this and accept it, then, like, this whole life is going to die. Which is partially true, because this false life that you've been living in will die.
Oh, yeah.
And your new reality, which is closer to or who you are, is going to be born or be experienced at that moment in time.
The longer you spend grasping on to these things that you think as your salvation, for comfort, for love, for connectivity, the longer you hold on to these things, the more impact they have on your current life as well as your future life.
Yeah.
When see, the interesting thing is that you always will find out what is or what is not. Like, you'll always find out that through time, through experience, that something is what it's supposed to be or is not what it's supposed to be. What happens is that when you live life through experience, you see the truth, you explore.
Yeah.
Okay, we have those mountaintop experiences, and we don't get to dictate or choose that happens. It just does. It just happens. Like, when we exercise, there's a result. When we do this, there's a result. And so what I've found is, the longer people stay in this place of unwillingness to find out who they are and be who they are, the more traumatic it is for them to come out of that place, as these beliefs are ripped from their beings. And so I think about some of these older generations that have held on to things that are honestly insane, and the unwillingness to even see them for their insanity enables them to be in the current moment. And I just think think about some people and some things in regards to that, and just the absolute unwillingness to that something could possibly be different than what they think it is.
Right.
Causes them to suffer more than people that look like they're suffering and that they're not. But they just are still living in this made-up world that they've made up in their head, or that they've been programmed with. And it's just those exact things in which they worship become the source of suffering. Yeah. I think about the holidays for family, Santa Claus, or religion, or just different things that as you get older you hold on to more, because you're seeking this core value in your life, this love from something that ultimately, every time it happens in the first place, every time it happens, year after year after year, it gets harder, and there's more pain involved in all of it, and it's just, what a terrible way to live your life.
Well, it's the old story and the old lie that the goal in life is to take all the chips and stack them up in order to form some type of structure that by the time you get to a certain age, it all makes sense, right? And that's not even close to the goal. Like, that's not an adventure. That's not experiencing life and opening yourself up to any type of possibilities. What you've continually done is actually narrowed your scope of experience, because the more things you stack up, the more answers you have, the less opening there is to experience anything beyond what your answer is. So by the time you get to a certain point, and some people call them know-it-alls, but most people wouldn't look at themselves that way when they sit down and say, I'm a certain age and I've experienced this and that, and they're being bullheaded, as some people would call it, but that's what we've done. We've taken all these experiences and stacked them up, done what the brain does, right? File, register, and then we look at the past to see what the future is going to hold. And then the only thing left to do when you look at the past to predict the future is repeat. Well, that's great if you want to repeat what's going on, but there's nothing.
You're not in the now. When you're looking in the past to predict the future, you're not in the now,
and you can't create anything new
with anybody,
with no one. So there, you're isolated in this weird, only known space, because the only space you're in is a space that you know, based off somewhere you've been, and so the only thing left to do is repeat whatever it is you experienced in the past.
Yeah.
And then what people wonder, again, what they're broadcasting. Well, here's what you're broadcasting. You're broadcasting the same shit you've broadcasted for years with the same experiences that you've had for years, getting the same results that you've had for years, and you're going to continue to do that from now until the end of time if you don't stop referencing your old past in this moment to broadcast a controlled future.
That's good. So let's kind of, to recap or end things, let's kind of we've just given a lot of information. I think that it's really good stuff, but let's go back to some of those practical applications of things that people can do.
Handstands.
If they want to take away from this to what is their frequency, or who am I? Like, those are some really good questions that you can just start to sit with. Who are you? Who do you feel you are? Who do you think you are? So we can start to get to who you actually really are. And, that's some things that I would say they could just really try to sit with, figuring out who they are in life. Those types of things. What are some things that you guys think?
I think one of the things that I picked up from Tony Robbins a while back that I thought was really, really great was... When you're taking a step back and you're looking at, and you ask yourself the question, what am I broadcasting, or what is my number? And then you start evaluating, asking that question, why? Why am I at a 4? And then once you identify some of those things, it's like, okay, so what would have to happen for me to be a 9, right? What would have to happen? What would have to take place for me to be a 9? And then start listing those things out. And what you'll find is, typically, and what I always found was, I've got this is where you start identifying your crazy expectations or crazy old story, is you've got all these weird things, and you just continue to ask yourself, what would have to happen for me to feel this way? What would have to happen for me to experience this? And you'll start identifying some of your crazy insanity. Yeah. And then you can, once you become aware of it, you can accept it and step out of it, right? To me, those are kind of real fundamental places to start. What's your number? Where are you at? And start asking yourself those why questions. And that's just spending time with yourself. And for some people, that's paramount, right? Like, a lot of people just never stop to spend time with yourself to say, hey, I'm going to take a minute, ask myself what my number is, and in doing that, I'm going to take a minute before I even do that and breathe. Just, unplug. Breathe, I'm going to breathe. Then I'm going to register that. And then I'm going to start asking myself some real fundamental questions like, why? Yeah. And it's not rocket science. It's really not. Like, it's really, when you stop and think about it, it's kind of like, okay, breathe, number, why? Yeah. And why am I a 10? Yeah. Because you can think you're a 10, and we talked about this last night in our meeting, where you can think you're a 10, and you ask yourself the question, why? Well, if I'm a 10 because I had a great day and everything went my way and everything went exactly like I predicted it today, then that's you're a 10 because of your circumstances. Not because you're a 10.
For the day, which will change with the wind.
Right. And then tomorrow, if everything goes to shit, then you're going to be a 2.
Right.
And then you can start evaluating that. And again, don't register that as bad. That just is. You can start evaluating and going back and forth and saying, okay, what are these things that I'm allowing to impact me and drive this number up and down? And do I want to participate in that insanity anymore? Right. So that's my take on some kind of simple things to start with.
Yeah. So that was good. And then just asking yourself who you are. And anything we want to add in closing? Come back to our podcast.
Yeah. I mean, don't try to. Just do.
That's
Just
a great
do.
one. That is
Stop
awesome.
trying to
Stop
do.
trying to do everything.
Stop trying to do.
Stop trying to figure out.
You know, the number one thing someone's going to say to you or say to us about what we just said is, I don't have time. And the answer to that is, no, you don't care enough about yourself. That's the truth. You're scared to know who you are.
Yeah.
You're scared that maybe everything that you thought was isn't.
Yeah.
And so if you really are in a place where you want to experience a new way of living life, then you've got to surrender your old thoughts and beliefs and not say that they're wrong. Just be willing to position yourself, to place yourself, more important, to breathe and to give your frequency and to ask yourself why. So a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, and see what happens.
Yeah, that's good.
And become the explorer of your own life.
Put a high value on your life, man. We get one. Well, what we maybe more than one life. Who knows? But I know one thing. There's only one person I'm gonna guarantee to spend all of eternity with, for sure. That's me. Whether eternity's eternity or whether it's just this life, I've got me.
Yeah.
Might as well get to know myself.
Really, your eternity is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
eternal
so,
moment.
Forget everything else.
Yeah.
Forget the past and forget the future.
Back to the quote
and
of
be
the day,
in the now.
which is
in
anxiety is a fear of the future, and depression is a fear of the past.
Dr. Joe Dispenza.
There you go.
All
Thanks
right,
for
folks.
joining us. We really appreciate
We'll see you next week.
your
Don't
feedback.
forget Muse Meditation, push-ups
Push-ups
for the brain.
for the brain.
And I've been smelling some good food outside this
Are they
office
cooking?
for quite some time. So
Cooking.
get on
That's a
that.
wrap, y'all.
Is it a wrap?
I don't know. Did you turn it off?
No.
What?
Are we still on?
We're still on?
Yeah.
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 Put the hat on backwards. I was just thinking today, I'm like,